Hey friends, welcome to the Canyon Pathways podcast, where we invite you to live like a son and lead like a father. Canyon Pathways is a global community of men on the journey from the striving of servanthood to the freedom of sonship as we traverse the canyon that is midlife leadership. My name is Noel Bouché, and I'm the founder and part of the leadership team for this venture, and I'll be your guide throughout this podcast as we explore and discover what it means to live like a son so we can lead like a compassionate father. Welcome to this episode of the podcast. Glad to be with you. Thank you, as always, for joining us. If it's your first time here, welcome. Welcome you to the Canyon Pathways pod, and excited to have you. And I hope that this will be not only instructive and inspiring, but thought-provoking and ultimately a blessing to you as we continue on this journey of learning to live like a son and out of that, lead like a father. We've got two types of episodes here at the CP podcast. The first one, like this episode, we call a field note episode, where we're sitting with one of our field note essays that is focused on a word that we believe embodies a concept or idea that is central to this journey into sonship, the move from living like a servant or hired hand to living like a son and heir. Second type of episode is our conversation episodes. And so after this, next episode to drop will be a conversation, in that case with my colleague Sherman Bradley and our Canyon Pathways brother, Stephen and Jenga in Nairobi, Kenya. Great conversation. You don't want to hear Steve's story, his wisdom, but also their reflections on this field note that we're going to look at, this word in this field note, which here is unity. We're looking at the word, sitting with the word unity, the idea of unity and of being unified. What does it mean to be united? You know, we all desire that. We desire unity. We know it. Uh, we want a tranquility, a peace, an inner peace that is often impacted by circumstances and surroundings. And when there is a lack of unity, when there's division, we feel it. And some of us feel it differently than others. I mean, some of us are, depending on your personality type, more wired to kind of debate and struggle and wrestle things out, be in the mix, as it were. Others of us are more desirous of an environment that fosters thought and reflection and solitude and creation, maybe more conflict averse in our interactions, maybe naturally wired as a mediator. So we're all different. And because of that, we not only respond to the world and circumstances and the environment around us differently, but we also might have a different picture of unity, of what it means to be united in my marriage, in my family, among my team, my company, in our state or nation, our broader society. We're going to have a different picture of that. So it's interesting. I've talked to many people, and we all come down a little differently about what are the factors that we are looking for, that we feel we need to feel unity, to feel like there is a united front, to feel like there's alignment, and to feel the peace, but also the clarity and the comfort that comes from feeling aligned or united. So interesting word, and yeah, I'm recording this right now in a nation called the United States of America, and an interesting name for a country, the United States of America. I mean, by definition, it's a group of very, very different states that are united. I mean, the U.S. is huge. It's vast. It's the third largest country in population, third largest country in the world by land mass. And so it's vast. And there's places in the United States of America that could not be more different. I mean, Anchorage, Alaska has virtually nothing in common with Miami, Florida, to pick one. I mean, totally different time zones, different latitudes, different climates, different geographies, topographies, different ethnic makeup of the population, different histories, different economies, different political environments. I mean, just night and day. And yet part of the United States of America, New Mexico could not be more different than New Hampshire. Again, different everything, time zones, histories, local politics, climate, everything, different economic factors, everything's different. And yet part of the United States of America. What are they united by? Well, we could check things off, have a little civics lesson here, but it's an interesting exercise because you start to say, well, there are things that are totally different and could be sources of division, and yet they are these two entities in this case, these two political units are united. What does that mean? How can they be united? What keeps them together? What are the elements that are necessary to make them united? And it again, interesting thought exercise for us in our lives because a lot of us were walking through frustrations where, man, I don't feel united with my wife if I'm married. I don't feel united and aligned, like I'm where I need to be with my kids who are part of my family. They're my offspring, and yet they're unique individual human beings. And I don't feel united. My team is feeling there's conflict. Is that okay? Is that not okay? Can we, I don't feel united, but maybe it's not, all is not lost because there's conflict, but how do I think about this? How do I think about the things that are different between me and others around me, and yet perhaps, come to a place of acceptance of that, and even discovery of the things that are actually essential that unite us. And all of a sudden I can say, "Well, we actually do have unity. Wow, even though I felt conflict and separation and dislocation, lack of alignment, maybe there actually is some unity to build on here." That's important as a leader, as a person, but as a leader especially, identifying what those things are and then helping others see, "Hey, there is unity. We can move forward. Even though we don't have all questions answered, we've got a lot of differences in this huddle, a lot of different skill sets, different communication styles, different ideas on where we should go or what success is gonna look like. But do we have enough? Are we in a place where we can identify points of unity and move forward?" That's an important skill. So it all starts with, though, what is unity? How do I understand? How do I think about? How do I, uh, again, identify and communicate what it is and what we're after? What's the minimum? And then once I know what the minimum is, what the floor is, then we can start talking about, hey, what's the ceiling? What's the vision here? Where can we get to? Let's go. So let's do it. Let's go. Let's go into the field note on unity and see what we discovered as we did a little deep dive into this topic. Unity. We live in a divided world, as have all humans since Cain slew his brother. Indeed, the inciting incident of that first fratricide was not enraged envy, but rather the first division itself, the deception-induced doubt that created the opening crack in intimacy between created and creator. Division begat death. Thereafter, disunity defined the day, and from that time till now, divide and conquer has been the strategy of egotistic emperors, ambitious autocrats, tyrannical type A's, and even passive-aggressive parents or acquaintances. Its application knows no bounds, as its proven effectiveness in extracting power from others is well documented. And once the intentionally sown divisions take root, it seems that depressing, if not deadly, divisiveness will grow unchecked until unity. To be united with others is one of our deepest desires. To know that we are not alone in the agonies we endure compels us to cling to a cohort. Indeed, this impulse is so ingrained and important that without it, divide and conquer would be impotent as a stratagem. One cannot divide a group against them without first implanting the identity of a united us. Division, we begin to recognize, is a twisting of the original state of unity. And in that recognition, we develop eyes to see the divider behind the division. Be it internal pride, external profiteers, or invisible powers and principalities, the one actually dividing almost always uses a them to distract or disguise. This alone ought to give us pause when our passions are inflamed in ways that affirm antagonism, foment fear, and undo unity. But even more important is a vision of unity that transcends the petty particulars we're prone to focus on. The English term is derived from the Latin unitas, meaning oneness, sameness, or agreement. It is rooted in unus, the word for one, and that, we are told by the One himself, is his desire for his sons. That transcendent vision is what allows for reconciliation, even when dissent within a heart, a home, a huddle materializes. A football illustration. I recall a game we shouldn't have been losing, and how the tempers flared in the huddle between the different positions. Linemen yelling at me to throw the ball, me yelling at them to shut up and block. A quick reset on our shared, higher aim of moving the ball down the field and scoring overcame quickly the momentary frustrations. It's comforting to know that even Hall of Famers experience this. Yet there's a built-in trap in the Latin-rooted concept of unitas. The notion that sameness, or agreement in all things, is essential. No surprise, perhaps, as the Romans were empire builders, dividers and conquerors par excellence, and unity in that controlling context presupposed a complete conformity. Not only did all roads lead to Rome, but all manners and customs must look like it as well. The biblical notion encompasses substantially more freedom. Surprise, surprise. When a man and a woman become one, they become Echad, just as God is one, Echad. The Hebraic term references not a solitary integer, but rather a unified whole. In other words, so to speak, the Hebraic concept is not a singular, isolated sameness, but distinctiveness brought together. To the biblical mind, unity is more togetherness than agreement, more presence than sameness. It is beautiful, and it is rare. Perhaps that's why the vision of brothers dwelling in unity, dwelling together, has its own psalm dedicated to it. The rarity of this unified togetherness should make our hearts yearn for it, but also open our eyes to the obstacles to it. The powers and precedents behind disunity are greater than any of us alone can overcome. As Tolkien put it, nothing demonstrates the power of the Dark Lord more clearly than the estrangement that divides all those who still oppose him. Our divisions declare the power of darkness. Only a unity of ones collectively dependent on the one who is Echad can overcome it. Whether it is our own secrets that make us double-minded, our quarrels with our spouses that divide our unions, our frustrations with our children when they are not just like us, our fractious hyperventilating with fellow citizens, or our self-defining against the media-molded caricatures of the others around us, all are places we can seek unity, togetherness, echad in our daily lives. All are ways we can release grievance-based identity, receive spirit-filled rest, and proclaim through our very presence the one who is Echad. It is an aspect of our inheritance as sons of God to experience that unity and to reflect its brilliance and strength to a divided world, to stand together, to walk together. And no matter the challenges we must face, as Captain America put it, we'll do that together too. Finally, all of you have unity of mind, sympathy, brotherly love, a tender heart, and a humble mind. 1 Peter 3:8. Hope you enjoyed that field note on unity and are already taking some things away from that, some ideas that you can apply and implement right now in your sphere. Three things jumped out at me as the author of it, as I was writing it, but then reflecting on it here again. Three main takeaways, just to give these to you as we sit with this field note. First one is this idea, when we think of unity, um, the the antonym, which is, of course, division, or at least one of the antonyms. The opposite of unity is what? It's division. To be divided. We see this phrase throughout many groups and societies around the world. We see it in the U.S., particular ways. United we stand, divided we fall. And it's an interesting thing because when we start our search for understanding of What is unity? What does it mean to be united? One of the ways that we do that is to distinguish what it is not. So it is not being divided. If I'm divided, we are not united. What does that mean? What does it mean to be divided? How is that different from some other things? I think first thing to recognize, and again, that Tolkien quote has always jumped out at me, that in nothing is the power of the Dark Lord in that fictional realm of Middle Earth. In no way is the power of this Dark Lord we are fighting against more evident than by the divisions that exist between those who oppose him. So those who should be working together against a common foe in a common cause are divided. That is the marker of the strength of the true power of this one that we are fighting. It's not military. It's not actual might. It's not ability to win. The power is evident by the divisions. And that's an interesting thought for us as we think about um, our adversary, who is an accuser of the brethren, a divider of the brethren, a deceiver, who part of the essence of that word and the action to deceive is to divide one from truth, to divide one into two minds about a thing, secrets, double-mindedness, hence dividing people who should be united, who should be aligned, who should be together. Division is a marker and an indicator of those things that are in opposition to God. So how do we think about it? How do we identify that? First, let's figure out what is it that's dividing us. Okay, we got some conflict here. We're not in alignment. We're talking over each other. There's conflict. We are in disagreement. What exactly is it that we're in disagreement? Sometimes we get so caught up in the conflict itself, the fact there is conflict or in fighting the battle that we lose sight of what are the actual things dividing us. Let's identify them. Let's mark them out. Let's shine a spotlight on them. What are they? And it's an interesting thing as we think about living and especially leading that there is a distinction perhaps between division and being divided and being different and having differences. In fact, it's borne out in the etymology of those words. To divide is literally to force apart from the Latin. And to differ, to have differences, to be different is to be set apart. Super interesting. One is about force. The other is about intentional setting apart, which we know our biblical exegesis on holiness, to be holy, to be sacred, to be sanctified is literally to be set apart unto God. It is to be set apart. So that's an interesting thought. A lot of times, what causes our divisions is simply differences. We're arguing over style instead of substance. We are not getting our way on our preferences and opinions. And so I view this as division, and I'm going to go to the mat with this person or this group of people. When really what we're talking about is differences, not divisions. And that's an interesting thing, and I think an important thing for us to identify. There will be differences. We are different people. We were created so by our Creator. So how can we say and identify, okay, we're different here, we're different there, we have these differences. Uh, let's accept them when appropriate. Let's not assign a moral judgment to them. Say these are matters of style. These are non-essentials for our unity. Let's identify them, agree upon them, and then we can celebrate them and say, that's for you, that's for me. But now, what are the essentials? What do we need for unity? And as we start to demarcate those things, we may start to see not only where the true division lies, but also where the divider is and how he's operating in our midst, in our own mind, in our heart, in our marriage, with our children, with our friends, with our colleagues. Where is the evil one who seeks to divide actually operating? What are those things? That's important. It's important because all of a sudden, if we're starting to call it just simple differences, divisions and things that need to be battled over, well, A, we're not gonna experience peace in our lives, and B, we're gonna miss the opportunity for the joy and the cumulative strength and delight that comes from varying strengths, aptitudes, abilities to perceive, revelations that one person who's different from me is going to receive that I'm gonna receive. We're not gonna have teams, and we're not gonna experience unity. So we miss that when we kind of, lose the forest for the trees, miss the forest for the trees, excuse me, as it were. So that's important. That was a big takeaway for me. Identifying how important it is to really see what division is. Let's turn to what is dividing us, and then who is attempting to divide us. And let's turn away from simply haggling over differences. And then we can start to identify, when we look at that, the things that unite us that are actually there already. And we can lean into those things. We can celebrate them. We can encourage one another. We can strengthen and exhort one another. Secondly, is diving into the word. We discovered that again in our English word unity, like many terms in our language, has a Latin root, and it meant to be one from the Latin unus, but also has this angle um, of sameness. And usually on our field note episodes here, our explorations don't take us into a different course as we go through different kind of language backgrounds of the concept, but this one does. It's very interesting that this Latin term, unity, to be united, does have at its root the idea of sameness, which doesn't allow for difference, doesn't allow for a diversity of being and approach and skill sets. That's interesting. And of course, in the field note, we kind of compared it to this notion, empire building, and the Romans being the example as Latin speakers. But also, we get from them the phrase "When in Rome, do as the Romans do." Sameness, sameness. That's what we want. If everyone's same, then I'll have. If everyone's the same as me, then I'll be comfortable. I'll experience peace. Life will be easier. Problem is, not everyone's the same as you. Not everyone is the same as me. We were created male and female. We come from different places. It's a big world, 8 billion people. We speak different languages. We have different perspectives. We have different lived experiences. Even within these, where I'm speaking to you from in the United States of America, we have very, very, very different incentives and considerations um, based on where we're living. If you're living on the coast, that's different life, different cares, different economies than if you're living in the middle of the country. It just is. It's just a fact. It's like in the soil comes out of the culture from the word cultivated. We're doing different things. So there's gonna be differences. They don't have to divide us to figure out what unites us. But when we go into the Hebrew and we start getting into scripture, we start to see something that I think the Spirit of God is revealing to his sons, which is this idea not of unus and sameness, but of echad and togetherness. That for me was a huge takeaway because it started to really not only focus my mind on the right things, but give me examples of when I've really experienced unity that is defined by togetherness, not sameness. So to happen. I've experienced as many different spheres as all of us probably have. I was an athlete, for the first 21 years of my life, predominantly football, and football is an incredible game. It's an incredible sport because there is so much difference among the players. There's so many differences that are needed to function as a team. A, it's a team sport, but B, it's very, very specialized. You do different things. You have 11 guys in the huddle and they all have to look different, move different, be sized differently, have different strength and speed levels. And then you snap the ball and they're doing very, very different things. You don't want that 5'11", 170-pound guy blocking that defensive end. That's not going to end well. You don't want the 6'6", 300-pound guy running down the field saying, "Throw me the ball." Not going to end well. Not going to do well. In fact, it's illegal for him to even touch the ball. So we don't want that. But we have to identify those differences, put everyone in the right spot and say, "Look, you can be All-American if you do this. Yes, we're all playing football, but you do this, you're gonna be great. You do that, you're not gonna be great." and it's also gonna get in the way. Those are differences. And so the huddle looks a little weird. You got all kinds of different looking people in that huddle, and yet you need them. And why are we united in the huddle? Because we're together in the huddle. We're together on the team, moving the ball down the field or on the other side of the ball, which was not my side of the ball or cup of tea, as it were, but, stopping the other team, from moving the ball down the field. So that for me, just brought this out that, man, I need a huddle where everyone does actually look different, actually has a different sense of style, of movement, and with that and because of that, a different purpose within the togetherness of this group. That's huge. I think that's why I loved All-Star games. I loved watching All-Star games as a kid, almost more than the Super Bowl. I liked watching All-Star games because, it brought together these differences. You had all these guys from different like a college All-Star game, different colleges, different programs, different universities, and they're all out there, and they got different helmets on with sometimes with the stickers of the other teammates and their decals on their helmet, and yet they all have the same jersey. All of a sudden, they're together, even though during the season they were rivals. I played in a high school all-star game, and it was an amazing experience because literally, guys, I you know, hate's a strong word, of course, when we're talking about rivalries, but some guys from my rival high schools, I was now on the same team as, and it was this experience of being united all of a sudden with someone I was opposed to a few months earlier because we were together. Not because we were the same. We didn't play the same position. We didn't go to the same school. We had different decals still, even though we swapped them and put them on our helmet. But we were together on in that locker room, on that sideline, together in that huddle. And that's why we felt unified all of a sudden. We felt unity. And it was remarkable. It was almost not to linger on this too long, but that All-Star game experience for me, coming out of high school, it almost had a redemptive aspect for that reason. That I was with guys who I really disliked from a, you know, sports competitive football experience a few months earlier. Now we're teammates. Now we're working together. Now we're in the, we're at the training table together, eating together. That is an amazing thing, and that's what we can start to experience when we are focusing not on sameness, but on togetherness. Together. We experience this at Canyon Pathways retreats. You have 13 to 18 guys usually from different industries, different states, different regions of the country. On some of our retreats, guys from multiple different nations, different first languages, perhaps, heart languages, and yet we come together, and very quickly we are together and we feel a unique unity. Why? Because we're not there because we're a bunch of pastors or a bunch of lawyers or a bunch of executives coming to some, industry boondoggle. No, we're there just as ourself and as a son of the same God, of the same Father. And very, very quickly, you start to feel unity in that room and around that table. As we go trek together and as we rest together, there's unity. Why? Not because we're the same. We're very, very different, but we're together. We're together with some essentials in place that unite us and that make us one. And then lastly, just the fact that this is our Father. We are sons of a Father who is a united creator and redeemer. Echad in the Hebrew. Father, Son, Spirit, one triune God. An incredible picture of togetherness with differences, but in that togetherness, oneness. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Echad. Father, Son, Spirit. Echad. Different together. That is our Creator. That is our Redeemer. That is our God. God is one, and that's the vision that's being put before us as sons, as daughters of this God, as heirs, as recipients of that inheritance of unity, of togetherness, of oneness with distinctives and differences, but united in what is essential, in his love, in his joy, in his peace. And then we can experience becoming one body, whether in our marriage or in our team or in our organization, most importantly, among brothers and sisters around the world, no matter how different we are, no matter how different Kenya is from Kentucky or South Dakota is from South Africa, all places we've got Canyon Pathways brothers around the world. We can come together as one, Echad, together, and see the spirit of this God who is Echad move in and through us. Friends, hope you enjoyed this episode. Check back for our next episode. It's going to be a great conversation with Sherman Bradley and Stephen Njenga, looking more closely, not just at Steve's story, but also this idea of unity and how important it is. Check out our show notes for links, as well as a PDF with discussion questions if you'd like to use this episode for personal reflection or in small group meetings. Subscribe so you catch all the episodes when they drop as we continue to develop a language of sonship through this podcast. Thanks to the team at Maroon Harpoon for producing this episode and to our donors who make this venture possible. And as always, thank you for being part of this Canyon Pathways community as we together live like sons and lead like fathers.